Okay. And I do this every fucking time, but I'm like, good. Am I live then? Okay. I'm live. I can hear myself even. That's crazy. Awesome. Okay. So today I'm going to be doing some cavalry. But I'd also like to put on a video, just something to listen to. So I'm gonna go over to Fudge. I saw Fudge uploaded something recently. I think it was today. Um, the many consequences of cringe culture. I was listening to a little bit on my way home. Uh, Fudge is good. I like Fudge's videos. I'm 7 minutes and 3 seconds into it, so I'm just gonna start over from the beginning. Um, I like Fudge's content. I didn't like. I'm not saying I didn't like his video. His video was fine, but I didn't like Donkey Kong Bonanza as much as he like expressed in his video. Like I still came out of the video going, I don't know, man. I played the game and I still disagree, but there's nothing about that that's wrong with his video. Basically, what I'm getting at here is, um, I like Fudge. I like his content, even if I have occasional disagreements with him, and there's nothing wrong with his content. You know, it says nothing about his character that I disagreed about something. Oh, there's a video by Thomas Scon. Maybe we'll play that after. But yeah, I'm just gonna work in cavalry. I'm hoping to turn this arm into an IK rig, which I'll probably pause whatever video we're listening to and look that up when the time comes. But for now, I'm just gonna try and finish the line art first. So yeah, now you know what the dealio is. So let's go. Bing, 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 bing. Oh, you're gonna have to see me eat a couple bites of sandwich every once in a while too. It's gonna happen. Let me pull up. Oh, I see. We are the wizards. I will not blither. We show up for 5 seconds just for fans to dither. We got Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and of course Freddy. Okay, that's it. Party's over. Go home. No more confetti. All right. Oh fuck! I'm gonna sneeze. Oh Fudge! What did you do to me? Your video made me sneeze, and now I'm hungry. What the hell? Oh, it's cut in half. I forgot they do this. This is a Mr. Pizza sub. It's pretty good. Gotta move my control. There we go. Okay.
The internet and social media has fostered a culture of self-consciousness that makes us afraid to truly express ourselves and ashamed of being who we truly
It's so
are.
dark in my
That is
video.
one of the core premises of the last video. And while I will be talking more about that video in a bit, I want to stay with this just for a moment. We live in an artistically minimalist society as a result of this. Frequent use of grey and white as an aesthetic in living spaces has been dubbed millennial grey. Modern architecture largely consists of featureless glass buildings and simple shapes, and every creative media juggernaut is afraid to take a creative risk of any kind. Instead, we're being funneled endless remakes, reboots, and adaptations of things that already exist, and the list of new IP that's been birthed and hit the mainstream in the 2020s feels practically non-existent, certainly compared to previous decades. Now this is due in large part to the economic peril of trying something new and it failing. But I also believe it's partially because social media, where everyone is inundated with people cynically dunking on each other for doing anything outside of the norm. This dunk culture seems innocuous at first, and often it is just in good fun, but I think we've reached a nexus point where people are actually just scared to put themselves out there for fear of getting laughed at by thousands, if not millions of people on someone's TikTok. And the internet has long supplanted TV or radio or even small in-person communities as the place to debate and discuss art. So this culture of tearing everything apart for points, for likes and views has more far-reaching consequences than I think we really acknowledge. In my last video on the cultural dark age, I used modern PlayStation as an example of this trend towards the safe and minimalist. How in the 2000s and even a bit the 2010s, it was happy to greenlight and produce a diverse range of games with vastly different gameplay styles, tones and genres. It was making an effort to appeal to kids and adults alike. And in more modern times, its games are overwhelmingly homogenous. Third-person, story-driven, over-the-shoulder action-adventure games featuring a serious, brooding protagonist that take far more cues from a modern Hollywood blockbuster than they do from other video games. These games are consistently pretty good, and also very safe, and I don't think push the industry forward very much. But there is actually maybe an even better example that I had in mind back then that I did bring up because, to be honest, I thought people would have stopped taking me seriously as soon as I did. On reflection, the fact that I chose not to use this example for fear of people laughing about it is exactly why it's such a good example. When I think about how modern internet culture has mocked and chastised us into being afraid to be our true, authentic selves, and how that extends to the things we create, I think about Sonic. Look at Sonic Frontiers. Have you ever seen this series so afraid to be itself? And moreover, can you really blame it? This series has been a lightning rod of controversy and criticism online basically since widespread usage of the internet became a thing, and from 2006 onwards, it was basically ubiquitous. I can hardly think of a work of fiction that has been mocked, memed, and roasted harder and longer than Sonic, and in a lot of cases, it's not particularly undeserved. It has been very funny to make fun of Sonic for a long time. It's also been very easy. Why is this? Because, for better or for worse, this is a series that's always been earnest. In official art and on box art, Sonic & Co. hit these weird, funky poses like they're on the album art for a late 80s hip-hop record. The music in Sonic has historically been rock and pop, akin to what was big in the 80s and 90s, and with lyrics, mind you, which is actually very rare in the video game space. And Sonic has often been a series with more involved storylines and significantly more dialogue than its child-friendly platforming peers like Mario or Crash Bandicoot. Say what you will about Sonic, but it is always trying. It's always clearly trying for something. It is genuinely bold and earnest in what it seeks to do stylistically. It's unlike anything else, and for a long time, for much of the internet generation, that has been like blood in the water. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to suggest that Sonic has not done lots of dumb shit that has been totally deserving of criticism. Here's a clip of him being brought back to life by the kiss of a human woman in Sonic 06. Here's any clip of fucking Shadow the Hedgehog, I don't know man. Genuinely one of the funniest games ever made. I just think there's a bit more to it than Sonic done. I think because Sonic is reaching for a more ostensibly teen audience than the likes of Crash or Mario, that opens it up to being something that adults, who are not the target audience, feel way more comfortable bashing. It's also far more maximalist. Mario doesn't really talk, the games are always light on story, the music and general tone are always pretty consistent stylistically. Crash, maybe even more so. I mean, I love these games and all, but they do kind of blend into each other. Even the literal level design, the kind of corridor style of 3D platforming, is inherently a minimalist kind of 3D platforming, even if the tone is a lot wackier than, say, Mario. And because Sonic is so clearly reaching and trying for different things, I do think that makes it uniquely vulnerable to mockery. That and all the funny shit. When I was a kid, some of the first music I ever remember getting into was from the Sonic OSTs, particularly the vocal tracks. Open Your Heart from Sonic Adventure 1, Believe in Myself from Sonic Adventure 2, What I'm Made Of from Sonic Heroes. Crush 40 was the first band I can ever remember liking, and only a few years later I heard people calling it butt rock, dad rock. I'd get people kind of chuckling at me for it at school, and I felt quite embarrassed to like these things. But Sonic played a huge part in forming my early music taste, and as a young teen I went from there to getting into bands like Linkin Park and 3 Days Grace, who honestly people behaved very similarly about, especially the former. Like Linkin Park had a moment in the limelight where it was unambiguously cool, and then for such a long time, people just memed on it relentlessly. They turned Linkin Park into a joke. And I'm not going to act like I didn't get in on the joke or that it wasn't funny to me at some points, but it's notable how much of a 180 it feels like we all did when Chester Bennington died. Obviously, the death of Chester Bennington is a very complex, multifaceted thing that I would never claim to be any kind of oracle on, but I think you can make an educated guess that the weird way the internet kind of turned on Linkin Park likely didn't help his mental state, given that he was known to struggle with rejection. It's like after this happened, even if you didn't like some of, or even most of their music, there was this kind of sudden snap back to reality of like, oh, actually Linkin Park was pretty cool, wasn't it? Like, even if you weren't that into them musically, they were doing something new when they first broke on the scene. They were playing a part in forming a new kind of culture, and it took a really tragic event for us to stop laughing at them and remember that they actually deserve a lot of respect for that. You don't really know what you've got till it's gone, is what I'm saying. We laughed at Sonic for so long that increasingly you can see it having this kind of identity crisis. Sega never finished its planned storybook trilogy, canning the follow-up to Sonic and the Secret Rings and Sonic and the Black Knight due to those games' poor receptions. Then they floundered around with Sonic Lost World, trying to do this kind of Mario Galaxy style thing that never really took off. And then Sonic Frontiers is just kind of sad. It's not even that bad a game. I mean, it's a hell of a lot better than fucking Sonic Boom or Sonic Forces, but it does feel like the kind of game that comes from a series that has been truly beaten down by years of relentless mockery. This is the series that used to have some of the most colourful and varied UI menus outside of Persona, that used to have you platforming around giant pinball machines through haunted castles that turn upside down, that used to have vocal hard rock, jazz and pop-inspired theme songs for each of its characters, and used to have Crush 40 pumping out the most insane bangers you'd ever heard for every final boss. Now, Sonic is running around open grassy plains to melancholy piano music, as if Sonic Team finally snapped after so many years of failure and went, fuck it, what do people like? Breath of the Wild? Yeah, let's do that. And now we have quiet, contemplative Sonic musing on the fate of his friends and enemies, many of whom don't even show up in this game, in a mysterious and desolate world. You can argue that this creative direction is born more out of Sonic Team's inability to figure out something that works than it is the specific cultural moment we're living in. But either way, the point remains. After so many years of fighting it, even Sonic succumbed to minimalism. And it's seeing this and seeing the self-serious, cinema-chasing homogeny of so many games out there right now that makes me want to say that you can think whatever you want about this series, and it certainly deserves a good amount of the criticism it's gotten, but it was doing something cool and different. And it's sad that it doesn't seem to feel comfortable being itself anymore. Sonic Adventure 2 is a genuinely well-told story for a game geared towards teens. Shadow the Hedgehog is a genuinely awesome character. Team Chaotix from Sonic Heroes is unabashedly one of my favourite songs of all time, and potentially a hugely underrated rock classic, as are so many of the character themes throughout the series' history. I should have to feel absolutely no shame in saying this. I don't care. Fuck your ironic enjoyment. I think this shit's awesome. And I also feel the need to say this because when we mock stuff like this out of existence, what are we left with for kids and teens? This is another thing I touched on in my previous video. We are living through a cultural dark age. The absolute dearth of new children's media. How the kids of today are just growing up with the same stuff we grew up with 20, 30 years ago. And there's a comment on that video that I find really compelling about how it feels like we've realised that the kids aren't the ones with the money, it's the parents. And so we've just stopped even pretending to care about the kids. We make nothing new for them. At best, if they want to watch a movie or a TV show, they'll have to watch something that the parents are also watching. Something like Marvel. And Marvel is another great example of the erosion of earnestness in the media we consume. Much has been made online of the lack of sincerity and earnestness in our movies and TV shows, and the MCU movies are surely the absolute best example of this. So much of our modern quippy humour, what a lot of people call millennial writing, comes from these Marvel movies that are just completely unable to play a dramatic moment straight. At any moment where these movies might risk taking themselves seriously or having genuine dramatic stakes, they feel compelled to break the tension with a joke, as if they're embarrassed to have to take themselves seriously as a comic book movie. As if they're looking at the audience and saying, how dumb this all is. The comic books of countries outside
Hello?
of the West, namely anime and manga in Japan,
Oh,
and
yes.
many
Hello.
adaptations, don't feel the need to do this. They don't need to wink at the camera and diffuse the tension, and they don't seem to be embarrassed to be what they are. Why is this?
I see. Thank you. I will let E. Wiseman know about that.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That's probably not good. That doesn't sound like a good thing, but I have no idea what would even be a good thing at this point for her. Oh, that's, I should go grab a drink, huh? That might be a good idea. I'm a little bit thirsty. A good old Dr. Thunder seemed like a good idea. So that's what we're doing today. We're doing a Dr. Thunder. Good idea.
Well, because I think Western culture has a unique obsession with and fear of cringe. Whoa, did somebody say cringe? Well, that sounds like my cue to show off on camera. We're about to get into some sensitive stuff, some stuff more likely to get struck by YouTube, and in those cases it's helpful to have more going on screen, like say a webcam or whatever, to just get around copyright. It just makes things a whole bunch easier. So, cringe as a concept is everywhere. You know this. You don't need me to explain this to you. It's on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's oceans and oceans of clips of people, some of whom are just going about their everyday lives, some of whom are just expressing themselves in slightly quirky, weird ways, getting laughed at by way more people than that. But there's a different angle to this dunk culture that I want to get into. And before I do that, in in case it isn't obvious, this video is ostensibly a follow-up to my previous video. We are living through a cultural dark age. I know I can't make you, but you really should go watch that at some point, either right now or after you're done with this video.
I've already seen it, Fudge. Calm down.
To argue with me in the comments, baby. And I say here, if you haven't seen that, there's a good chance that whatever you were going to bring up is mentioned in this video, which is basically a bigger, more comprehensive, frankly better version of this video you're seeing right now. The original title of this video was literally Extended Thoughts on the Cultural Dark Age, but I figured the algorithms would not have been too kind on something that is so clearly a follow-up to a previous video, especially because, to be vulnerable for a moment, that video did underperform a little bit compared to what I expected. But I suppose when you talk about the amount of kind of taboo topics as I did in that video, I probably should have seen it coming, to be honest. I'm really proud of it. People seem to like it. I think it's worth a watch if you're watching this. Anyway, towards the end of that video, I talked about palatability, how a lot of the genuinely most insidious figures in pop culture right now are being made to seem harmless and palatable to you through memes, and meme culture, and humor. And a lot of these people are being rocketed into your social media feeds without your consent, by the way. Remember when Twitter used to be just posts from people who you followed? Then there was a For You page added next to it. Then the following page stopped working like it should, and then For You became the default, and then it started serving you a bunch of clip farm accounts of Andrew Tate saying that drinking coffee makes you fucking gay or whatever. In case it wasn't obvious, the rich and powerful have learned how to use the internet, and it's making everything suck. You've got Elon Musk manipulating the algorithms on Twitter to prioritize outrage and astroturf certain politicians. Check out Rupert Lowe, British MP, if you want to see a good example of that. Those are definitely not real fucking numbers, are they? TikTok, not long ago, was bought out by Oracle, which is a company owned by Larry Ellison, who is a Trump mega donor and a key Republican ally, a big 2020 election denier. And to go back to some files about a certain financier who owned his own mysterious island upon which a lot of bad things may or may not have taken place, and which may or may not have played a part in my last video getting kind of butchered on the algorithm. A certain man, a Jeffrey E, is now purported via these files to have literally met the founder of 4chan 24 hours before the message board poll, short for politically incorrect, went up, which has been widely recognized as an incubator for far-right memes and extremism and hate campaigns. It's where stuff like Gamergate was first fermented. And the point I'm making here is that the culture wars are manufactured, they are funded, they are profited. There is a whole ecosystem behind them. And if you're still not convinced, here's a clip of the world's most famous fifth-place swimmer turned right-wing media commentator Riley Gaines literally being told during the recording of a podcast what her beliefs are.
Wait, tell me the pillars again. So it's pro-life. Okay. First, second. Yep. Cool.
I did not know that about Riley
First,
Gaines.
Second
That is
Amendment,
fucking crazy.
sanctity of life, our veterans. I feel very passionately about. Do you guys, if you're going to talk about, I mean, you hate to even call them political issues, but do you specifically say like the left or the right, or is that something you try to kind of refrain from? Like if I were to say something to the effect of like the left is still doubling down. Okay, first, that's what I needed to figure out really quick, is when I first...
I gotta say, if you told me that that was Riley Gaines, I would not believe you. She looks so different from how I remember her.
I would say, can I just say
It's
that? Like,
crazy to see that
around 2
she's
years ago?
still a turd of a
Hello, my
person,
name is
but
Riley Gaines, and I'm a very, very proud Patriot
Jeez.
Mobile user, and I have been for about 2 years now.
whoa,
This
what?
is genuinely a way of life.
Type motherfucker.
It's their whole career, which brings me back to dunk culture, because there is another angle to the damage dealt by our need to get one over on people. So you look at a guy like Asmongold, right, and it's easy to dunk on him, and it might feel like the right and morally correct thing to do, but you have to realize that it's also utterly unproductive. For better or for worse, these people make money off of the engagement. Even if you're mocking his insane viewpoints and broadcast into the public how insane you think all the things he says are, it doesn't matter. This is his job. And if he were ever to go back to renege on the rampant genocide apologism, the racism, the transphobia, the sexism, his own fan base, who he has cultivated by saying these insane things, will turn on him, as has happened to Ben Shapiro recently. So there's a phrase that I've come to like quite a lot recently. It's a game. And the only way to win is to not play. If you hate this rage bait, this ugly capitalistic theatre, don't partake in it. Otherwise, it's mostly about you. It's about your need to be seen as funny, for everyone to see how funny you are by roasting and dunking on these people. You need to get your jokes off more than you actually hate what's happening, and more than you genuinely want it to stop. Because this will only stop if and when it ceases to be profitable. And as long as people keep it in the public eye, they keep it on every site and in every algorithm, even if by voicing their disagreement with it, they're still giving it the engagement, the numbers, and the metrics that it needs to sustain itself. About a decade or so ago, we had this thing called BreadTube. It was a term used to refer to a bunch of left-wing YouTubers who made content about politics and society and socio-political topics, but also who occasionally made videos about other things, because they were genuinely interested in and capable of talking about other things. They had genuine interest and curiosity about art and the world around them. And nowadays, BreadTube, as we used to know it, hardly even exists, because the people who used to make up what we knew as BreadTube, say it with me now, were interested in doing other things. They didn't need to do this as their life. They were capable of other things. They have shown themselves to be knowledgeable and curious and skilled enough to go a different path in life. You can find no such thing with the equivalent right-wing ecosystem on YouTube. This is all they can do, being miserable 24/7, non-stop slot content about being a huge whiny bitch, rooting for the failure of people far more impressive and successful than you. Smash JT, Varadark, Endymion, if you're watching this, play Super Monkey Ball 2. You're gonna love it. I swear, video games can be fun sometimes. If you just play them and like have fun with them, oh my god, nothing better in the world. It might stop you from being so fucking angry all the time. It's impossible not to have fun with Super Monkey Ball 2, even for you guys, I bet. Yes, there is a woman character in it, but you can throw her off the side of a cliff. So, Asmongold's image is that he's gross, unhygienic, and basically every stereotype about gamers that took root some 20 years ago. Pointing that out, even in a funny way, is achieving nothing. You're partaking in this stupid little theatre, keeping this charade going. If you actually hate what's being done to our culture by people like this, the best way to fight back is to deprive it of the attention it needs to function. I know that's a bit ironic considering I'm talking about it publicly in this video and did so in the last one. For me, this is it. I want to get this message out there because I think it's important, and then I'm going to move on with my life. Because I am interested in doing other things with my life than play these stupid games. I can do that. I am capable of going off and doing other things and seeing success with it. He's actually since reacted to the article that I wrote about in Pilot Swap a couple years ago, continuing to play into the character of being gross and unhygienic. I've said nothing about it. I have nothing to say about it. I don't care. You shouldn't either. And maybe it seems ironic that I'm decrying our need to criticize and dunk on everything when I myself have done that on my channel before. I got monetized on YouTube criticizing Smash Ultimate. I recently made a video where I'm very highly critical of Super Mario Odyssey, for example. And that's because I obviously think there is a place for criticism, and that there is such a thing as a healthy balance. I think if you look through my channel, you can see that a large majority of the videos I make are positive, because I have a genuine appreciation for the art. I'm not simply looking to monetize outrage. That's the difference. It shouldn't be hard to recognize when your criticism is constructive and when it's actively destructive. I'm going to give you an example. If you didn't know, I am a huge fan of One Piece. I have been since 2013 when we were in Fishman Island, but I don't actively read every week.
What?
Actually, I've kept up through watching YouTubers. One of them, for a while, was Grand Line Review. You've probably heard of him. He's one of the bigger reviewers in the space. I eventually unsubscribed from Grand Line Review after multiple videos in which he plugs an AI chatbot that lets you speak with One Piece characters, completely unaffiliated with Ichiro Oda, the actual creator of One Piece.
Oh no.
I mean, imagine that. Your whole life and career is ode to this one-man story. You're literally called Grand Line Review. You're named after the Grand Line from One Piece, and you go and take a sponsorship deal from
What the hell? What happened?
actively plagiarizes his work.
Where's
The
composition
fucking
one?
disrespect
Composition
you
one.
have to have for the art that you apparently love so much
I
that
think
you
I
devote your whole
accidentally
life around it
opened
is mind-boggling.
a different composition, even though it didn't show up in the viewer. There we go. Okay. Enter. Blue. There we go. That's all that had to be. Jesus Christ.
Dunking on him all over the internet. Actually, also yes, and in a way, that's kind of a compliment because you can see through Grand Line Review's body of work that this isn't a grift thing. He actually does have a long history of paying artists for the art that's shown in his video, among many other things. Paradoxically, he has consistently credited and paid artists. I know, right? I can make it make sense. What I think you can see from context clues is that this is someone who is potentially capable of changing according to criticism. I don't think it takes a lot to see the difference between someone like Grand Line Review and someone like Asmongold. One does have a genuine passion for what they do, at least aspects of it. They have shown the capability to be respectful of the creative process. The other one is doing this as a grift. They fundamentally cannot change because it will signal the end of their career. As you may know, I am a satirist. For quite a while now, I've made money making fun of dickheads online. I don't believe in satirizing this modern crop of rage baiters and controversy farmers. You're not going to change Asmongold's mind by dunking on him. Deep down, he might not even genuinely believe the things he says, but this is his job. If he can't do this, what else is he going to do? What skills does he have? What talent has he ever displayed? He played WoW. That was his thing before this. He played WoW. And he deserves every bit as much attention and notoriety as any other guy who played WoW. But these are the consequences of our pre-modern internet obsession with this constant game of one-upsmanship. Our quote retweets, our cringe compilations, taking pictures of people and recording them in public so we can get our jokes off about them. Creatives more scared of their own shadow than ever before. Everyday people afraid to express themselves. And a hugely emboldened, hateful right-wing internet ecosystem. Detach yourself from it. Let people be themselves. Learn to like things again. Spread positivity. That is the most effective way to rebel against this. I don't care if it sounds cliche, it's fucking true. It's how anyone, regardless of their place in the world right now, could play a part in bringing about the next cultural renaissance. Okay, one more point, and this is getting away from dump culture a little bit, but it is important, I think. I made a brief reference to the centralization of the internet in the last video, and that is quite significant as a factor, I think, in where we are now. When I say that the internet has been centralized, what I mean is that we've been basically funneled into the same 3 or 4 sites, right? Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, maybe Facebook and Snapchat if you want, but they're kind of diminishing lately. When we're all on the same sites, then yes, our online culture becomes homogenous and we become easier to propagandize and control. Eventually, it's hard to ignore the rhetoric of the bots and blue checks on Twitter, even subconsciously. The zone is so flooded and you see so much bullshit about DEI and the importance of billionaire wealth as job creation that maybe you even start to believe it a little bit yourself, even just subconsciously. No one is immune to propaganda. This is the point. And it wouldn't have been so easy back in the day when we were all more spread out, when we were on more sites, more forums, places like Tumblr that don't really get used so much anymore. One way to fight back against the hate that's being mainstreamed nowadays is to return to smaller communities, villages functionally, and to play a part in decentralizing the internet. At the moment, I use Blue Sky quite a lot, and I've seen quite a lot of kind of weird mocking sentiment about it on other sites, but I don't know. People talk and interact like normal people here. There's some weirdos as you get on any site, and yes, there's definitely some very real hall monitor energy coming from some people, but I certainly prefer it over getting flooded daily with clips of Clavicular walking through fucking Tel Aviv with his IDF girlfriend and Blue Checks whining about how the Odyssey is flopping because it's cast a black woman. On Blue Sky, it feels like people actually read and engage with each other in an earnest way. It's become a bit of a hotspot for actual journalists to interface with each other, for actual creatives to post cool art and think pieces. It's like the Twitter of old, really. The vibe is pretty good and pretty normal there right now. Now, I have no fixed loyalty to any social media site. You know, if Blue Sky gets some shitified by some crazy billionaire one day, I'll walk away and leave that too and find another place. In the same way that we need to stop giving the Asmongold's and Nick Fuenteses of the world their attention, we need to stop giving the Elon Musks and Larry Ellisons of the world our clicks. For now, if you're interested in what I'm up to and what I'm making and what a whole bunch of other normal, well-adjusted people are up to and are making, you can find us on Blue Sky. I know this video was a bit all over the place. As I said, originally it was supposed to be an extended thoughts on the cultural dark age video that kind of blew up out of that scope. But I made it partially because I wanted to hone in on why I think the internet feels so miserable to be on lately. But also partially, and I hope I don't sound like I'm inflating my own sense of self-importance when I say this, I do think it's important at a time like this for guys like me who look like me, specifically I'm talking about white guys with an audience, to come out and talk about this. To just make it clear that no, we haven't all gone insane, I promise. And most of the bigoted freaks who look like us, who are advocating for these heinous things, are manufactured. They are astroturfed, funded, and ultimately emboldened by, admittedly, some of our own somewhat self-destructive habits online. I know for women and for the trans community and people of colour, it's a very scary time to be a part of the internet generation right now. And I think white guys with audiences in particular should feel a level of responsibility to speak up and just make it clear that you know that these people and that these marginalised communities are not your enemy. It's easy to speak up and state your beliefs when you know that the zeitgeist is on your side, but at a time like this, when some commentary YouTuber might turn you into a week's worth of content, or you could get ratioed by an army of bots on Twitter by like 5 to 1 for saying that you don't think casting a black woman in the Odyssey is representative of the downfall of Western culture, are you still going to have the same courage to speak up for the people who need you to speak up for them? That's something you've got to ask yourself. I'm aware that I might sound like one of those useless 2019 era American Democrats or Hollywood celebrities right now about to fire up my Snapchat and fucking sing Imagine for people with COVID or whatever. Rest assured, I have some very dark, rogue thoughts right now that I'm holding off on saying because I don't want to get this video demonetized. This is all very much the diplomatic version of what I'm thinking. For me, it's trans rights, free Palestine, and do demonetizable things to the rich every day until I fucking die. I'm not scared of what any bankrolled industry plant has to say about that. I don't give a shit. None of us should. Fuck them. Let's get back to actually having fun. And with that, I'm out of here. So, I hope you got something out of this. Stay safe. And I'll see you next time. Thank you to my high-tier patrons. Good Chicken, Christopher Monk, Flashing Fire, Tale of the Toaster, Justin Duncan Mills, Garm, Super, Cactus, Boomer Carrot.
So you could probably see why I like Fudge. Like I feel like we agree on most of that stuff there. I feel like if I had any particular criticisms of that video, which to be clear, there aren't many, it's a pretty good video. I think, honestly, that's probably better than most of the ones that I've heard from him. Not that he makes pretty bad ones or anything, but, like, you know, I didn't much care for Donkey Kong Bonanza. And that's just, like... That's just one thing. But if I had to criticize this video, I would say I feel like... Oh, there isn't a plastic backing to it. Oh. I fucked this illustration up a little bit. Anyway. I feel like there's a bit of a contrast, or a contradiction, I guess, to the idea that we should just ignore people like Asmongold who make it their jobs to be shock jock streamers on the internet. And I'm sure if like Fudge was to respond to this, he could come up with something a little bit more convincing, like don't go about mocking them because it's useless in these ways, right? That's what I'm thinking he probably could do if he really put his mind to it. But the way I'm thinking of is like these guys kind of deserve mockery, right? And it's not so much about they deserve mockery, we should give it to them, but it's like we should be mocking them so that everyone else around us knows that like this is insane. This is out of place. And I mean, Asmongold's a fairly popular example. For him, it doesn't make much sense. But if we're going to observe how these communities are fostered, then popular examples and pointing out why those, where those things come from, pointing out like Asmongold clips where he just says bizarre shock jock shit, they are useful in some way to finding where that rhetoric comes from, I think. So I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense to dunk on Asmongold, especially if enough people dunk on him for enough of the same shit, then you're able to have, you get more samples of that kind of behavior, so you know better where that's coming from, right? Like, I doubt that something like Adolescence would be quite so effective if we didn't have popular Manosphere Red Pill creators, right? So the fact that they are so popular requires that they be kind of ostracized publicly, but also to not be obscured. Because if they're then obscured, then they kind of get away with it being obscure, right? Does that make sense? Like, if they're not observed publicly, then they aren't studied as much. And I think that studying stuff like where the red pill comes from and where the manosphere comes from is important. And I'm sure, like I said, if Fudge was to really articulate his thoughts on something like that, I'm sure he probably could find some way to convince me that it's not worth the time. But I think in some way it's got to be worth some of it, right? Like, I think Adolescence was good. And I think part of why it's good is because Jamie ostensibly had that's the like kid who murdered another kid in Adolescence. He's like the kid that all the drama revolves around. I think it works because of the implicit nature of the red pill that Jamie was following some really popular creators that he saw as important. And so mocking those people that others see as important is kind of important on its own, I think. But I don't know. I'm not married to the idea. I just think, like, obviously it has its place, right? So, I'd say A tier video, maybe S. It's pretty good. That was a pretty good Fudge video. I think I'm gonna just switch over to the Thomas Scone one, because Thomas Scone videos are very dry. They're very informational, but they're not boring. Like, they're fairly quick, and he throws some jokes in every once in a while just to let you know he's still human, which great. So yeah, I like Thomas Scone. Let's listen to what he has to say about Lindsey Graham, who's dead. Oh, I should like the Fudge video. I should probably leave a comment. Hi, Fudge. Good video. Love you. Send me 500 cigarettes. Thanks. Great. Okay. All right. Let's go. Let's go. He has no fucking idea who I am. He's gonna be so, like, disgusted by that comment.
You may have heard that Republican Senator Lindsey Graham is dead. It may have been sudden, but there was no accident. He wasn't assassinated. Given his lifestyle and family medical history, he was just too old to keep living. With his long-term replacement still to be elected, I could not think of a better symbol of the modern Republican Party. Lindsey came from a small town in South Carolina. He went to college and law school to become a military lawyer, and his parents died during his schooling, so he legally adopted his younger sister so that she could get the military benefits. He was then elected to the House of Representatives. Later, while he was in the other part of Congress, the Senate, he was promoted to be a military judge, which seems wrong to me. That would make him simultaneously a part of the legislative and judicial branches of government. I'm a little bit of a Constitution fan, and those things are supposed to be separate. There was some fighting about it in court, and eventually the courts agreed with me, and he was forced to step down as a military judge. That doesn't really tie into the overall narrative, but I'm a nerd, so I thought it was interesting. In the military, Lindsey received several medals, including one for being a reserve legal advisor for prisoners of war in Iraq and Afghanistan. At first glance, that might sound really bad, considering how we treated prisoners in the Middle East after 9/11. But there's no reason to believe he was aware of any torture that took place, and the worst offenses don't even actually line up with when he held the position. If you're interested, I would recommend watching Standard Operating Procedure, a documentary that shows how the guards in Abu Ghraib not only constantly committed war crimes, but also took hundreds of pictures of themselves doing it for no reason.
Everybody knew. Everybody that was inside of that prison, they had the pictures.
Don't eat while you watch it. When these things came out, Lindsey Graham walked a fine line of condemning the acts that took place while defending the Bush administration. He has never wavered in his support for Bush's wars, but he did call for more oversight in the prisons and harsher punishments for those implicated in the crimes. Lindsey's first claim to fame was helping lead the impeachment of Democratic President Bill Clinton.
Don't lie under oath to a federal grand jury when meeting the country or begging you not to.
Which is fair. Clinton did lie under oath multiple times. Near the end of his term in the House of Representatives, Lindsey voted in favor of going to war in the Middle East, which most now view as a mistake.
Obviously, the war in Iraq is a big, fat mistake.
And the Patriot Act, which basically says Americans have no right to privacy if the feds think you might be involved with terrorism.
One of the provisions of the Patriot Act is called the library provision. They can look at the books you check out in the library. People say, well, still a judge has to sign these warrants. But we changed the standard. The standard of the Fourth Amendment was probable cause. They had to at least convince a judge that you were a suspect, that you were doing something wrong. Now the cause or the standard has been changed to relevance.
It's worth noting that these actions had bipartisan support, but unlike some Congress members who will have a legacy of acting reasonably with a brief emotional reaction to 9/11, Lindsey Graham's legacy will undoubtedly be as one of the most deranged war hawks in American history, who promised to value principles over political power, only to abandon his principles when MAGA demanded it. Lindsey became a senator in 2003 and was very close friends with John McCain. In 2009, a populist movement called the Tea Party began, which would later be adopted by Trump and molded into MAGA.
For Tea Party members, the prime example of big government and legislative excess is the Obama health care plan, now law, or as Tea Party followers call it,
Obamacare has to go.
many in the Tea Party who think Obama was not even born in the United States.
He was perhaps born in Kenya.
Surveys show a majority of Tea Party members get their news and information
sure.
from the Fox News television network.
Trump at the opening of the New York Stock Exchange, it's just another sign that his victory was the greatest comeback of all time.
It may be hard to imagine now, but at one point, some Republican politicians were rejecting the most radical aspect of their party.
I can't trust Obama. I have...
Nobody wants to do that. Okay.
Read about him, and he's an Arab.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. He's a decent family man, citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with.
Instead of just repeating everything they say, we're playing dumb.
Tariffs clearly is going to be a part of the policy agenda from the White House. All of that, he's said to us, will be in the executive branch and not the legislative branch, so they'll have unilateral authority over it. I don't think you'll see across-the-board tariffs in whole countries or whole industries. Look, we're free trade advocates.
Today I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff over and above our normal tariffs already being charged.
For example, Lindsey and McCain were among many Republicans who championed some reasonable bipartisan immigration reform that would actually address undocumented immigration if it passed.
Well, here we go again. The Senate immigration bill through, and now Tea Partiers are through with him. And boy, did they let Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham know it yesterday.
As opposed to the current platform of openly hating dark-skinned immigrants.
They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. Not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about. Africa.
As President Trump's immigration crackdown continues, the administration rolled out the red carpet for 59 white South Africans they call refugees.
The United States rejects the egregious persecution of people on the basis of race.
Trump claims the U.S. had to take in the group because white farmers are being killed in South Africa in what the president calls a genocide. But there's no evidence that's taking place, and some civil rights advocates are now raising questions about the decision to admit only white refugees at a time when the administration has cut off access to others facing war and famine.
Waiting outside courthouses to deport people with ongoing legal immigration cases, and shoving a protester, shooting a guy for trying to help her up, labeling him a domestic terrorist for legally carrying a concealed firearm, and preventing local law enforcement from investigating.
Do you agree with the assessment from some of your own officials that Alex Preddy is a domestic terrorist or an assassin?
Well, I haven't heard that, but certainly he shouldn't have been carrying a gun.
In 2015, little old lovable Lindsey launched a presidential bid.
I hope they hear that all over the world, that I'm running for president of the United States.
And his focus was on aggressive foreign policy.
I want to be president to defeat the enemies that are trying to kill us. Not just penalize them, or criticize them, or contain them, but defeat them.
It sort of goes without saying, but it wasn't totally incoherent like Trump's foreign policy is. So for example, there was nothing in there about trying to take territory from Canada or Greenland.
Whether they like it or not.
No tariffs on all our allies, or claiming they're all ripping us off.
What is it me for?
He proposed soft power instead of trying to cut all humanitarian aid by calling it waste, fraud, and abuse.
I've learned from my travels that a small schoolhouse in a remote region educating a young girl can do more damage to radical Islam than any weapon we possess.
And Putin was regarded as a bad faith enemy, not as a good friend.
Putin seized Ukrainian territory and threatens NATO allies.
Lindsey stated his focus very clearly.
The biggest threat of all is the nuclear ambitions of the radical Islamists who control Iran. Our close ally, Israel, is at risk as a result of Obama's failed leadership. With Israel, we share values, we share democracy, and our friendship is unbreakable. To our friends in Israel, I will never abandon you.
On domestic policy, Lindsey actually sounded like a Democrat at times.
If I and others like me have to take a little bit less and pay a little more to help those who need it most, so be it.
He supported collaboration and compromise.
To my friends in the other party, on the big things we share a common faith. I'll work with you to strengthen the country we both love. Our differences are real, and we'll debate them, but you're not my enemy. You're my fellow countrymen.
I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them.
Then Trump said this about Lindsey's friend and colleague, John McCain.
He's not a war hero. He's a war hero. He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
Lindsey said,
He's crossed the line here,
What's the line he crossed?
saying that John
Shit,
McCain and
shit,
people like
shit.
him are not American
It
heroes.
froze
American
right up.
people will not tolerate what he is doing now regarding those who have served.
He also correctly pointed out that Trump was not a figure to be taken seriously, and his campaign was fueled by scapegoating immigrants and being sensational to no end to dominate media attention.
He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for.
Then Trump gave out
What
Lindsey
the
Graham's phone number.
fuck?
Didn't this guy call me like 4 years ago? Yes. He called me 4 years.
Are you fucking serious? Autosave, 5-minute intervals. What the fuck happened to the autosaves? You're fucking kidding me! I thought I was about to start trying to rig a fucking arm today, but apparently the fucking program had different fucking plans. It is set to save in 5-minute intervals. Why did it not save every 5 minutes? God damn it, Cavalry! I'm so fucking...